Tom Hanks playing a MAGA supporter on SNL is the most out of touch skit ever. I thought it was pretty funny and very accurate about the state of MAGA supporters and what y'all behave like. I'm just so offended. If you're offended, then it's probably because you were looking into a mirror of yourself in your interactions. Are you saying that I'm racist and uneducated? If you're a MAGA supporter, you are. We know none of them are actually intelligent people. Most of them have a very low IQ, and most of them don't use facts. They just go off whatever their leader tells them to believe. This is SNL, and comedy should always mirror reality, the real reality. This was the least divided racial election in the history of all elections. You're really crashing out looking in that mirror that Tom Hanks held up to you about who you are, who your husband is, who your wife is, who your mother is, who your dad is, who your son is, who your daughter is. It was probably really hard to look at that and be like, man, that's what we look and sound like. But it's the truth. And sometimes the truth is just uncomfortable.
The whole fact that you have so many MAGA supporters that constantly calling other people snowflakes. They're calling them sensitive. They're talking, they're saying that people who voted for Kamala are working off their emotions and they're too emotional, but yet they get upset over a skit, right? Mind you, the skit is 100% accurate because there are MAGA supporters who are like the character MAGA Doug that Tom Hanks played. To say otherwise is disingenuous. Those people do exist. They are out there. You will find them. You will see them. But the thing is that a lot of people who voted for Trump do not want to admit that they might be wrong. And they don't want to admit to the type of people that are within the group, like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and people like MAGA Doug to a lesser extent, and this is what is coming to a head now, Vote for who you want to vote for, but make sure that they really are the best candidate and not because you think that this is a game of basketball or football and you're rooting for your team and you're happy that your team won, but you really didn't win anything. So now your rights are being taken away. It's ridiculous. They get mad over MAGA Doug by Tom Hanks. They got mad over Kendrick. They got mad over Beyonce. What don't you guys get mad at? I've never seen a bunch of people who are more sore winners in my life. If your guy won, you should be ecstatic. But it's not that you guys don't understand that he's doing something wrong. You guys know that he's doing things wrong. You know that what he's doing is not, if it's not illegal, then it's definitely immoral or amoral. And instead of just saying, you know what, we made a mistake, guys are trying to double down and triple down and again quadruple down, and it's not making sense. Eventually you're going to hit a wall and you're going to have to come to reality and say, hey, wait a second, maybe he's not the right choice. But I digress. On to the next video. I thought it would be a good idea to actually watch the original clip from Saturday Night Live where all this comes from.
Time performance. Oh, it is Doug. How you doing, Doug, now? Now, I heard a fellow could win some money here, and I know exactly who that is, the church lady.
Yes, that is correct, Doug. Thank you. That is the church lady. $400 for you.
Oh, well, thank you. Hey, now, speaking of church, can I say something? If more folks went to church, we wouldn't be in this mess we're in now.
You know what? I agree with you, Doug. I'd like to shake your hand, sir. Here we go.
No.
So they're letting go of people, not because of their race and not because they're white or black. They're letting them go because these people came from mostly, our government right now is mostly, it's democracy, right? We follow a certain way. We're a certain way. We are balanced. We appreciate different classes. We appreciate different race and nationalities, right? Most of us do. There's some of us who are still stuck in time, and that's what creates havoc in their own lives. They don't realize it, but that's what's creating havoc in their life, and that's what's bringing a lot of their energies down. And sometimes they could have had a bad experience with someone of a different race, color, whatever, and they're still holding on to that bad experience, which they need to grow from, right? But then why are they letting go of these individuals? Because they want to put their own Goonies. Is it Goonies? I don't know. They want to put their own individuals in those positions that they're going to be able to control. That's the goal. The goal is to have every control possible. Every control. And if it's not that goal, then you know what? Elon is definitely trying to put all his AI robots and his AI, stuff in so it could control everything that's happening in the government. That's another thing they can do. But you know what they fail to see is that certain things you can't just control with AI. You need people who are educated in those areas. People who are experts, like with the nuclear stuff, right? When they realize that they let go of the wrong group, they're the only ones that know about this nuclear stuff. If I was in that group, I would have been like, hell no, I'm not going back. You figure it out.
We have some news right now. The official White House account has officially referred to Donald Trump, the president of the United States, as the king on the official White House channels. These are channels that are observed by foreign leaders and foreign governments across the world. This is the latest post from the White House. As you can see, it says Trump with a crown on his head like the king. It says, "Long live the king." This is in reference to a Time magazine cover. It's meant to look like one. And this was posted on the official White House social media accounts, their Twitter, their Instagram, all across their social media accounts, all theories and allies to see. This comes after Donald Trump called himself, said, "Long live."
So now this man is calling himself a king. And as this guy says, and I follow this guy, and he's calling himself a king. And this, like he said, is being spread on news channels worldwide. So now the world knows that not only this man, but the people in his cabinet and his administration is calling him unjustifiably a king. But we live in a democracy that was created off of the fact that we don't want kings in this country. Okay, let's continue.
Long live the king, as he referenced New York's congestion pricing, where he directed the Secretary of Transportation to end congestion pricing in New York City, then called himself the king. Now I'm going to do a full breakdown of all of this and so much more on my Substack shortly this evening, so be sure to subscribe for free at the link in my bio.
That's crazy. And I think Trump needs to grow the fuck up. He's an 81 or 82-year-old man, and he's a child in a man's body. I swear to God, that man. You could tell Donald Trump never got into a fight. He never got bullied. He never got a spanking. Because he's stuck at like 12 years old. It's ridiculous. Like, why would you want to be a king? With so many kingslayers out there, why would you want to be king?
They can't work from home, but you can? Does that seem morally right?
You're telling me 57% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and single mothers often have to work 2 jobs to support their kids, but one man is allowed to hoard almost $400 billion in the same country? Does that seem morally right? And I love the way that this genius can't comprehend that different jobs have different conditions, right? Is it morally right that some people work in the sewers and morally right that other people get to work in air-conditioned offices? Is it right that one man gets to sit on his ass and tweet 300 times a day while taking credit for the work that his engineers do at his companies? It's really crazy the way this guy duped an entire country into thinking he was this intellectual genius. Tell me, is it morally right to have 12 kids with multiple different women and never spend any time raising them? Does that seem morally right? How about being the biggest source of misinformation in the entire country? Is that morally right? But yeah, no, what's truly morally reprehensible is people wanting to work from home so they can spend more time with their families. That's vile, vile.
We don't have kings in America, and I don't intend to bend the knee to one. If you think I'm overreacting and sounding the alarm too soon, consider this. It took the Nazis 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days, 8 hours, and 40 minutes to dismantle a constitutional republic. And all I'm saying is that when the 5-alarm fire starts to burn, every good person better be ready to man a post with a bucket of water if you want to stop it from raging out of control. Those Illinois Nazis did end up holding their march in 1978, just not in Skokie. After all the blowback from the case, they decided to march in Chicago instead. Only 20 of them showed up, but 2,000 people came to counter-protest. The Chicago Tribune reported that day that the rally sputtered to an unspectacular end after 10 minutes. It was Illinoisans who smothered those embers before they could burn into a flame. Tyranny requires your fear and your silence and your compliance. Democracy requires your courage. So gather your justice and humanity, Illinois, and do not let the tragic spirit of despair overcome us when our country needs us the most.
I still think that even some Democrats were like, oh, well, he's just going to do what he did last time. And he's not. World leaders are recognizing that he's not the same. I mean, he's 10 times worse. And imagine that. This is the guy that oversaw how many deaths during COVID, right? And now we had Ebola breakout. Now we've got measles breaks. Like this is bird flu because they were some of the other people that got fired.
The USDA firings.
Yeah, no. And he's like, oh, well, wait a minute. Like this is just literally not even partisanship, in my opinion, at this point. This is incompetence. And I think that, no, seriously, it's incompetence. And I know earlier y'all were talking about bring back the Bushes. I'm with you, honey. Like, listen, I mean, you know, it
was some sense of normalcy, democratic norms.
And I keep saying
one thing: would you support Democrats shutting down the government as a bargaining chip to push back against the White House?
It's not as we don't have the power to shut the government down.
Well, to refuse to vote for funding bills.
I absolutely support that we should not be voting for this funding bill because this funding bill is going to gut the things that we care about. And I don't believe that we can enter into good faith negotiations with people that literally could care less about their word.
It's funny because when I saw this clip, I said to myself, you know, she brought up, you know, George Bush Jr., the Bushes in general, you know, senior and junior. And, you know, they did it in jest, but they were serious, right? And I said to myself, the craziest thing about this is that when the Bushes were in office, you know, especially George Bush Jr., and Dick Cheney were in office, it was bad then. But it was still a sense of normalcy. It was still a sense of, you know, people reaching out from, you know, the other side of the aisle to work on common goals, common problems for the American people. But it was still bad. And it was like the needle was being pushed ever so slightly. You know, Republicans had started to do things, you know, with Dick Cheney. I mean, they were doing it before since like Nixon or before that, you know, but in the age that I grew up, you saw them pushing the needle more and more and more. Republicans were pushing it to see how much they could get away with. And then when they realized in 2015 that, you know, 2015, 2016, that Trump would be the one that would help them accomplish all these goals, all these conservative goals that they had planned, that they had set up for years, if not decades, right? They pushed it even further, right? And then they kept pushing it, right? Because Mitch McConnell kept backing and actually influencing Trump a whole lot to get a lot of stuff that he wanted to do, because, you know, he's the Jesse Helms, you know, protege. So, you know, like the scion. So it's like, it was crazy, you know, because now they pushed it so far that now that the shit broke, they're like, oh, what happened? And now you have Mitch McConnell voting against Donald Trump. Like, it's crazy. He's voting against things, you know, because now he knows, you know, after like 3 or 4 decades that he's not going back to be a senator. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And, you know, you guys literally, the Republicans literally spent decades pushing the needle until the fucking needle finally broke. And now they're like, oh, what do we do? It's crazy. And then even worse is you still have certain people doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down on the nonsense. Like, you know, there were town halls all across the country with Republican constituents talking to the Congress people, right? And these people a lot of them, white males, were standing there trying to gaslight their constituents, like these people, aren't paying attention, and these people aren't seeing what's going on in government and all the illegality that's going on in government. It's ridiculous.
But we think about the fact that he even tried to do his little tariff war with Mexico. Mexico and Texas, we share a very special relationship for a lot of different reasons. But one is because they are our biggest trade partner as well. So now we've got all of these farmers that are saying, hey, my farm workers are not showing up. It's not just the schools, the hospitals, and the religious institutions. It's actually everywhere. They are afraid to go to work, and that's only ending up causing more issues for us as Americans. And that's what I need people to understand. This isn't a matter of, oh, well, that's over there. This impacts all of us because, again, we are a country of immigrants. And the fact that we have so many people that either don't know our history or want to ignore our history, or as we know, this administration, especially in Black History Month, they want to delete our history. The reality is that immigrants have always been what made this country great.
So it baffles me that people are so scared of history. It literally baffles me. It's like, and it's crazy because, a lot of times when the whole history thing comes up with Black history and Black contributions and Black oppression in this country comes up, you have a lot of white people who get anxious and they have this anxiety or this fear. And it's like, I don't get it. Like, D.L. Hughley said something that was very profound. He said, I would like to meet the Black people that live in white people's heads. The fuck? Who are these Black people that live in your heads, white people? Please tell me. My European American friends, please let me know. Who are these black people or African Americans that run around in your head? Because so many of us are not like that. So it's like it's very crazy to me that that is this great white fear of what? Like, I always say to myself, right? I have people that I love dearly who are white, and they're not like mediocre, like when white people, I feel, when they compare themselves and they hear stuff like this, and they blame immigrants, or they're force fed this immigrant dish of nonsense and bullshit, so they can get fed on the nonsense and bullshit to go against just other people trying to work and make a living and survive and raise their families, right? It always baffles me that when white people hear about these things, they automatically default to the worst versions of white people. The slave masters, the slave traders, the KKK, or, the triple K, whatever, the 311, whatever. They default to that. And I'm like, have you guys never heard of what was his name? I think it was John Brown. Have you guys never heard of Larry Bird? Like, have you never heard of Steve Nash? It's crazy to me. Have you never heard of Keanu Reeves, even though he's biracial? It's crazy to me that you guys don't sit down and just kind of say, what about the actual, like, high level, high performing white people that we can be like? It's like, what happened to those people? It's hard. You'd be hard pressed to find another Larry Bird in whatever race or color skin. That's just a fact, because he's that good. It's like Eminem. You'll be hard pressed to find another Eminem, right? Because he's that good, and I think more people should just focus on their inner growth of self and stop worrying about the noise. Like, I think once people get satisfied and they get hold on themselves, it's easier to deal with the world and other people, regardless of what they look like. I think that's just a fact. Like, once you're settled with yourself, but I think a lot of people aren't settled with themselves. So, we have chaos. and history should be taught, whether it's called CRT or or anything else. History is history, right? And it should always be taught in its fullest. Black history is American history. West Indian history, Caribbean history is American history. You have all these facets, right? Even Mexican history and Canadian history, to a certain extent, is part of American history. Because they're our closest trading partners, and they've been so for decades. And if you don't tell history in its fullest form, how can people understand? How can people make critical judgments on what's best for them and their families? That's just my thought.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
Hey, Adela. We are gathered here once again today to see if you've learned anything from what you posted previously. Your comment reads, okay, Congress itself is a separate branch from the others. Strong start, okay. Hence 3 branches of power. Good job, you're talking about checks and balances. Some House reps and some Senate, yes, make up the Congress. However, Congress is a separate branch. So, Adela, remember earlier when I said you should Google before you tweet? Because the internet is indeed forever. Yeah, you've gone and done it again. Because yes, there are indeed 3 separate branches of power. Executive, that's where the president is. Judicial, that's where the judges are. And then there's the legislative, and that is where Congress is. Congress is made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate combined. Like Captain Planet, or Transformers, or whatever. Power Rangers, even. They create Congress. That is the 3rd branch. Checks and balances. I don't know if we can help you. Do better.
Among the MAGAs, a lack of education is common, leading to a limited understanding of the world around them.
So I voted third party because I didn't want to vote for Joe Biden. I thought he was doing a bad job, but I didn't want to vote for Trump either. Do I regret my choice? Well, yeah, obviously now, but I didn't really think this was going to happen. Vote in the election because I didn't think that my vote mattered. Biden actually lost in my area by 50 votes, and so if 50 of us had actually gone out and voted for him, he would have won our area.
This is a skit on The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Yeah. It's a scary as hell series of books, and yeah.
And he also would have won the state. Yeah, I wish I had been more educated because I would have gone and voted and it would have mattered. Yeah, so I voted for Trump because I was really passionate about him. I thought he was going to make America great again. And I thought he was going to do stuff that the libtards weren't doing. But it turns out he just wanted to get revenge on the left. If I had known this is what he meant by make America great again, I definitely would not have voted for him now. Yeah, fuck those 3. I voted for Biden.
A slave-owning, genocide.
Everyone is in favor of a plaque to celebrate the library, but the vast, vast majority are against including a MAGA acrostic. Okay? Unfortunately, it's clear that this council does not listen. MAGA is profoundly corrupt, unmistakably anti-democracy, and most importantly, MAGA is explicitly a Nazi movement. You may have replaced a swastika with a red hat, but that is what it is. I will now engage in the time-honored American tradition of peaceful civil disobedience.
Get the heck! Get out! Yeah, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess.
I know I just posted the morning roundup, but guys, by decree of executive order, the Justice Department just deleted the entire database of police misconduct. Like, I'm actually physically shook. I gotta go inside the building, but I'm just like, this is terrible for the country. Okay, I'll see y'all later.
What he's talking about is that there was a database where it listed the worst of the worst cops. Because as we know in the United States, police can basically get away with whatever they want to, especially since it's on a state-by-state basis a lot of times, and things, laws vary slightly from state to state, sometimes majorly. But the point I'm trying to make is that this database held police officers who were the worst of the worst. They already have qualified immunity, allows them to get off on a lot of things, right? Unless you can prove without a doubt that they did something, and then they'll get charged, and then very rarely get put in jail. But what happens though is those officers tend to, if they get removed from their position at the police precinct or whatever department they're at, they can go to another department in another state, in another city, and still get work. This is what happened with the woman last year who was having a mental episode, who called the police because she thought someone was breaking into her home, and she was shot in the face because the cops said that she tried to throw hot water at him, and he was arrested. But he had done similar things in other towns and other states, and this was like the second or third time where he was able to be an officer again. And the thing is this list would have people like him on it, right? This list, and I'm sure they probably have a backup, somewhere. I'm not trying to fearmonger because, I don't know. But my 15 plus years of experience working as an analyst, I know that a lot of times sensitive files like these have multiple backups. But I'm assuming it's this bad because it's Trump, and they probably had the backups deleted too. But the reason why this is so dangerous is because now these men can go back out into the world and find work, unless there's another network, like an internal police network throughout the country, where an officer can call another officer from a different department in a different state and ask questions about the person applying. But if the person doesn't have a history and no one knows them, they can apply to be a police officer. And this includes, officers who just, not just the murderers who hunt people, but the ones who kidnap people, the ones who, took bribes, the ones who were, guilty of essaying someone. These things matter. So this is very, very scary, especially for Black people in the United States, because the police were created not to protect the people of this country unless you're rich. It's crazy about this is that it is Oh, Francesca, when you wrote that song about the leopards eating their face, girl, you ain't never miss. What? They set tripping. Bro, MAGA against MAGA. It's crazy, right? Because a lot of these guys, they're bending the knee. They're bending the knee to Trump and Elon. More Elon than Trump, because Elon threatened that they wouldn't get reelected, or he make sure that they wouldn't get reelected if they didn't do what he said. And these people forget that the power is in the people, not the purse of a single billionaire, right? They're all stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either you represent the individuals that elected you into this position or these positions, or you listen to a singular billionaire. Either way, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because if you go the Elon route, you're gonna get kicked out. The constituents are gonna kick you out, right? If you go with the constituents, Elon might attempt something where it could be anything with him. It could be your life, or it could be your labor, your job. But it's less likely that you're going to catch heat from him the way he's talking as opposed to the way the constituents are talking. They will vote you out, period. Now, Elon might threaten to have you voted out, but like in these smaller districts where it's rural and the people participate heavily in their government, they're gonna know, a straw man when they see one. They're gonna know a plant when they see one. And they're gonna be like, oh no, you're not staying, but you're not staying. So yeah, they did this to themselves, man. Republicans did this to themselves. There was so many other choices, than Trump. They could have picked the worst Republican within the Senate or the worst Republican within Congress, except for Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Within the House. And I swear to God, they would be better if not the same as Trump. You have so many other choices, right? And they're really good Republicans, or rather they're better Republicans than Trump. Period. That's all you had to do. All they had to do was find somebody within government or even a general and push that person, but they pushed Trump again. And now you're wondering why you have heat from your constituents? Bro, do better. You deserve to lose your job.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
No funny intro, no fancy words, just one factual statement. We do not now, nor will we ever, have kings in America. Not next Tuesday, not next November, not on the 31st of February, never. Now look, I hear you. History is kind of hard for the cospatriots that make up the Coppertone Cowards cadre of cronies, but that is kind of how we formed our country. If you feel otherwise, well, opposite a friend, off is the direction in which I wish you would fuck. If you feel the need to defend Dementia Don on his aspirations, do me a favor. Take that argument, turn that sumbitch sideways, shine it up real nice, and stick it straight up your ass. Here, let me break it down just a little bit more crystal clear so you can't say you're confused. If you support Donald Trump, if you support Elon Musk, if you support the Republican Party at this point, you are not a patriot. You are an enemy of America. Keep the motherfucking boots out of your motherfucking mouth, and remember that the golden rule will always remain yeehaw, fuck the law. I love y'all. I'll see you down the line.
Yeah. So this has been the B Savage Podcast. I am the Brilliant Savage. Join me for the first episode of Scrolling on TikTok, and where I scroll through the videos on TikTok that have to do with what's going on in the world. If you like this content and if you'd like to see more, please subscribe, like, and follow. No. Subscribe, like, and comment. Until next time, blessings.